What's going on, Niner fam? It is Peter Lucas. This is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. And today we're going to talk about the 49ers versus the Pats this Sunday. And yeah, it's a get right game in my mind. But we're going to get all into all of it. I got some audio from the press conferences today, as well as I've got some audio from the Pats and how they think of their team going up against the Niners. So we're gonna get all into it, but before you know, we got to hit the music.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I like to know.
are you ready for start time?
And once again, it is Peter Lucas. This is the Niner Fanatic Podcast, and appreciate you guys coming through. Make sure you give the video a like. Make sure that you give it a subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell so you get the notifications for when I go live. And like I said, this is a must-win. You see the title. This is a must-win game for the 49ers. 49ers face the Patriots this Sunday, and this is if last week wasn't a winnable game, this is absolutely a winnable game. And there will be no excuses. It doesn't matter. We're going to score points in my mind. And the more I look at this matchup, the question is, can we stop their offense, which has been terrible for the majority of the season? So there's just not a lot of excuses. Like, we just need to go out there and get it done. Before I get to all the stuff that we're going to get into, got to say what's going on to the chat. Jimmy, appreciate you coming through, fam. Always a pleasure. McNiner in the house. Make sure you give my guy McNiner a follow on Twitter. Make sure that you give him and my guy Culp a subscribe on their YouTube channel. They do great content, usually in the morning times, I think. But yeah, make sure you check out their channel as well. And yeah, so all right. I'm not going to dwell too much on what happened last week. Although I'm going to talk about a couple of points, because I think that we missed the boat as fans. There was a lot of fans, a lot of people on Twitter, and I know everybody that's watching the show isn't on Twitter, so they wouldn't know all of the nonsense that goes on social media in general. But the vitriol, for lack of a better term, for Brandon Ayuk, for Sorensen, for Kyle, for who else? The entire defense, really, and even Javon Hargrave, who actually had one of his best games of the season, had his best game of the season until he got hurt, and then there were people dogging on who else. Of course, special teams, he deserved it. Like, I'm not going to get upset about that. But I bring all of it up because, look, I get it. We're 1-2. The 49ers are 1-2 right now. There's no real reason to be happy about anything that's going on. But at the same time, we've got to – that's what us content creators are here to give you context, at least some of us. And the context that I want you guys to remember is a couple of things. And we talked about some of it on me and Beto and Brandon's show this Tuesday. But so first off, Kyle. Is the loss Kyle's fault? Well, he's the head coach, so it absolutely is. A lot of people wanted to talk about, it wasn't the offense's fault. They scored a majority of their points by when? They scored 20. They had 21 scored by early in the third quarter? At what point do we start to blame the offense for just not keeping their foot on the gas? And I think that there's a little bit of blame to go on that, but it's not on, in my mind, it's not on Purdy. I think that Kyle gets a little tight on his play calling when the game starts to get tight and the game starts to kind of go back and forth. The other team's starting to grab some of the momentum. Kyle kind of panics and he starts calling things that just doesn't make sense. And to him, it makes sense, obviously. And and I know a lot of you out there are going to be like, well, Kyle is the head coach. He knows more football than you've ever known in your life, and all the other stuff that we say that nobody that doesn't mean anything because there's so many coaches out there that fail. And if we're gonna sit here and say that they know all, and after they've been wrong over and over and over again. So who knows anything would be my question. Who knows anything about football? If we can't criticize what when we see something that's obviously not right. Because as an objective person looking from the outside looking in, a lot of people can see what is going on. And this is the thing about Kyle. Kyle is first off, he's an egomaniac. Love the guy to death. Like I love him as a coach. I think that so much potential. And the fact that we're still talking about potential in year 8 is a problem. That's a problem. Uh, we've gone through like this team has had the best roster in the league for I want to say at least four seasons in a row, and we haven't been able to get the job done. I'm not the type of person that sits there and says that everything, the end all and be all is the Super Bowl, and that's the only way that we can validate but it's the way that if you can't get over the hump, it's the way that it happens. If your team is all injured and you've got all these things going on, like all these things happen, exterior things that's not connected to your play calling, not connected to the decisions that you make, then okay, I can understand. But if if the reason why you're losing is direct reflection of your leadership, direct reflection of your play calling, we kind of got to look at you a little side eye. Even though you took us from the depths, because I do give Kyle and Lynch credit for that. They took the 49ers out of the depths. They were so bad. But they were pathetically bad when Kyle got here. And so I fully appreciate it. And I want Kyle to get over the hump. But I see glaring issues. And we've been talking about this. If you've been watching my show for any amount of time, we've been talking about this for a couple of years now. He's got to get out of his own head as far as he's got to get better with the drop back game. He's got a quarterback now. He doesn't have to put a ceiling on his offense. He doesn't have to, everything doesn't have to be dumbed down. Like, I think he needs to think about moving guys around the formation. You've got really good players. It's not all about that the answer is in the play, like Kyle likes to put it. The answer is not always in the play. Sometimes to get your guy, the guy you want to have with the ball in his hands, to get that guy the ball, you're going to have to move him around the formation and get him in a matchup that you want. You have to dictate the matchup. And Kyle does not do that. He does, as great as the system is, and the fact that somebody's always open, I get it. But when Debo is out and Kittle is out, Jawan Jennings should not be your number one. It should not have 175 yards pass. And I love Jawan. I love it. I love I love the performance. I loved it. Every minute of it. But you're allowing your best player to be bracketed the whole game and double teamed the whole game. And that's why you have those lulls at times. is because you're allowing the defense to dictate who's going to get the ball, regardless of like how. Oh, well, that's the answer. He's wide. The other guy's wide open, but that's why Ronnie Bell's getting the ball thrown to him. Everybody's talking about Ronnie Bell, and they want to kill Ronnie Bell. The reason why Ronnie Bell is getting the ball is because we don't motion our guys around and get them better matchups. So Ronnie Bell's got to get the ball because he's the one open in the Shanahan offense. So and I know a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, you're just being negative." This has been going on for years now, guys. What's the point of having these great players if we can't get our main guys open? Especially this is the time that we're going to see what's going to happen when Brock gets paid and we can't necessarily afford to keep all those weapons. This is the time, and Brock did a phenomenal job. I feel like Kyle let him down. I feel like Kyle, I had been screaming from the mountaintops all off season that the thing that we wanted to see is, can Kyle evolve this passing game? Can he, now that he has a quarterback that obviously can handle it, can he evolve his play calling and the plays that he's creating around getting the right guys the ball and not just make it about the system? And we're still waiting. And I don't think we're going to see it this season. I'd be shocked. And if you ask Kyle, he just went off on a couple of reporters, and I know people don't like Grant Cohn, but it doesn't matter. If he asks the question, just answer the question. There's no need to get testy. Just answer the question and go and move on. As much as people could not stand Bill Belichick, the way he handled press conferences, did he ever get uppity? No, he just said, we're moving on to the next week. And it might have been the driest press conference ever, but he never let those reporters let them get under his skin. And Kyle lets those reporters get under his skin. It's visible, and it happens all the time. And that is just a blatant show of ego, and how dare you question what I'm doing. And then Mayoko, the voice of the 49ers, the one that the team, the guy that the team speaks through, he even threw him under the bus. And I get that Mayoko's question wasn't the greatest. It wasn't the best laid out question. At the same time, it was unnecessary the way Kyle acted. And that it's just part of being professional. I wasn't a fan of that situation. But okay, now that is being said, but the whole thing with Kyle and what we need to pay attention to in this game and in the future is, what does he do? How does he flesh out the pass game? We've already watched him take away the play action almost entirely out of this offense. I don't know what the reasoning for that is, but he's almost completely, and he's going to say, well, the defense was playing too close to the line of scrimmage. The front wasn't right. It was just the read. That was what we had to do. Like, what they were doing was taking the play action away. That's silliness. Those answers aren't okay. That's silliness. There is no team out there that's going to stop running play action because they're getting certain looks. Like, so the lack of play action, the abandoning the run game with a lead just because the defense puts 8-man fronts up there. It's going to continue to dog him until he figures out that he's got to run the ball, period. You got Jordan Mason out there, who it doesn't matter who you got. I mean, let's just be real about what happened last week with Jordan Mason. The offensive line opened 0 holes for him, and he still got 77 yards, still averaged over 4 yards a carry. Like, just give the guy the ball. Do what you got to do. You just got to do it. And so I'm going to continue to look at it and I'm going to continue to talk about it until I see a change, because this team has had that ceiling on it for a while. And now teams are just keying on what he's doing, and he's going to explain that he's going to blame it on the injuries, but he's not doing anything different with the injuries, with or without the injuries. He's not going to, if Debo was in there, now all of a sudden he's just going to call a bunch of screens that the team is waiting for, that the other defense is waiting for. He's just going to call a bunch of screens and a bunch of wide back nonsense that hasn't done anything in 2 years. So this might sound like a rant about Shanny. It's not. Like, I just want him to do better. So this is the game where I'm going to go back to it. This is the game. This is the game where we need to get right. This is a must-win game. It's not going to get, the schedule is not going to get easier. So this is one that they've got to have. So now, move on from Shanny. People were dogging on Brock because he didn't make one throw with Ayuk, the deep one to Ayuk. You guys need to relax. You guys need to relax. He is not the one that we should be looking at. Like I said, it's Shanny's fault that we don't move Ayuk around. Pay attention. Ayuk doesn't get motioned. Every other number one receiver in the league, you show me one number one wide receiver, go-to guy in the league that doesn't get moved around the formation to create favorable matchups. You show me one. I'm guaranteeing you right now that Ayuk last week is the only one. Like, it's silliness. And I don't know why they do it. Why they don't do it. He might not even have it in the playbook at all. But Purdy was not Purdy's fault. Purdy played an excellent game. You're expecting him to be perfect, and that's just not always possible. He just didn't see it. We got to move on. Like, we're not going to dwell on that one play when he made so many other good plays. Like, he played really well. Who else are we dogging on this week? Ronnie Bell. Okay. I just talked about Ronnie Bell. Shouldn't be playing. He shouldn't have been on the team in the first place. That's first off. And not that I like dogging on players. I'm glad that he got an opportunity, but we've seen it. You got your opportunity. Good job. Like, he's got to go. He's got to go. Conley is a better receiver than he is. I don't care what the reasoning is for him to get 10 less snaps than Ronnie Bell. I don't care if he's not as good of a run blocker as Ronnie Bell. I don't care. And Jacob Cowing, your rookie that showed tons of flashes in preseason. I'm not understanding why. I get it if you think he doesn't know the whole playbook and he's not going to be exactly where you want him to be. But the reality is he's a playmaker, and he's got something that nobody else on this team has, and it's just twitch and just speed. Nobody else has that in this wide receiver core. Ayuk is a fast receiver when he can get out in the open field, and he's a great route runner, but he does not have that fast twitch, long speed like Jacob Cowing does. And just try it. I'll be interested to see if he comes out there this week, because if he does, great. Then Shanny's showing some growth. If he doesn't, that's Shanny telling everybody, you can't tell me who to play. Because they asked him about that in the multiple times in interviews. He says the same thing. When he's ready to play, then we'll play him. Which says to me, if we don't see him this weekend, that's a middle finger to the media and to the fan base. That's really what that is. He doesn't care what you guys think. He doesn't care what the media thinks. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He's going to put people out there when he's good and ready to put people out there, even if he loses the game. He's one of those guys that'll be looking at his hands like, How did we lose? He had that face all last game. Like at the end of the game, if anybody noticed the way that Kyle was looking after the game, he was shocked that they lost that game. I still think he's shell shocked a little bit that all of his stuff isn't working. So it's, whew. Uh, but okay, those two out of the way. Now I want to get to some coaches. Now we talked. Well, let's talk about the defenses first. People talking about the defense, saying the defense can't get this, can't do this. They're terrible. Yadam is terrible. Who else? Yadam is terrible. Uh, Campbell's terrible. Shavarius Ward's been pretty bad. But everybody's got to think about this. 49ers have had a lot of injuries this season, and not that I like to blame anything completely on injuries, but they've got a lot of injuries. They've got guys that are injured. You got Javon Hargrave out now. We're missing Drake Greenlaw still. And then you've got and we just got Hufanga back last week. So you got two guys that are going to be out. Then you've got guys coming back from injury in a Hufanga like that. It's going to take him some time to get back into the groove. But even then, he didn't play half bad. There was a couple. He just didn't look like Hufanga to me. The instincts weren't all back yet. And then you've got guys that are playing hurt. You've got Shavarius Ward, who is making business decisions out there, because he's just guessing because he's not going to be able to adjust. His body is not going to allow him to adjust. So he's playing hurt. But then you've got Yadam on the other side, who's not playing well, and the other teams are targeting him. Demo is the only person that. Oh, and you've got Bosa playing hurt as well for two games now, and nobody's going to give Bosa any leeway because he makes X amount of dollars. And I'm starting to come around on. I don't necessarily give Bosa a lot of leeway now, just because I kind of agree with with what a lot of people are saying about him now, as far as not getting the sacks. You're paid to get those sacks. That's what you're paid to do. That's why you got paid what you got, is because of the sacks that you got, and then you got Defensive Player of the Year. The hurries and the pressures, great. I love it. I love that you're graded as a top 5, top 10 defensive end every single week. I love it in PFF. But if it doesn't end up being a sack, then those guys get another shot at it with the same yardage. If it was a sack, they would lose yardage, and it kills drives. Sacks kill drives. So, and people are going to say, oh, well, he doesn't have a lot of rap. Does that stop TJ Watt? That does not. That whole defense could be hurt. TJ's still going to get his. That defense, he is still going to be dynamic. Myles Garrett, still going to be dynamic. You're not going to stop him, no matter who's playing next to him. So Bosa, and now he's hurt, so he's got a built-in excuse. And it might sound like I'm just going off on everybody, but this team from all three phases is not playing up to snuff. All three phases. And people are going to say, oh, well, they scored 24 points. I mean, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And it's sporadic and inconsistent. They can't sustain drives. Like in the week one, after week one, they can't sustain drives. They keep kicking. They had 111 yards in penalties last game. They're killing themselves. Not only are they killing themselves, but then guys are dropping balls. Whether it be Ayuk, whether it be Ronnie Bell, it's just not a good look. It's not a good look. But as far as the defense goes, the defense is so far away from from what we're used to, and now people are gonna here come the Steve Wilkes guys they're right there waiting to say, oh well, why did we get rid of Wilkes? Wilkes wasn't a fit. Wilkes was not a fit. Just because Sorensen is having troubles doesn't mean that Wilkes was a fit. Wilkes wasn't a fit either. Like that just means that we've got to give Sorensen is a first time coordinator, so you got to give Sorensen some time. You had to go into it knowing that it could take him some time to get acclimated to the play calling, and we're gonna hear from Sorensen a little bit later. I got some audio from him, and I'm not making any excuses for Sorensen. It's got to get better. There's a lot of miscommunication out there that I'm seeing, and it just looks like guys just aren't in the right positions. But yeah, so you got the defense. I mean, this is a long list, guys. It's a long list. So then after that, then you got Sorensen. We just talked about the defense, Sorensen. Now let's talk about special teams, which is the crown jewel of terrible. They're the worst unit on the team, easily. It's not even close. And they've been the worst unit on the team for how many years now? I just don't understand how they cannot find somebody that can run this special teams unit better. Like this is two of them now in the Shanny era that they just cannot get it right. We just cannot get it right. It just doesn't. And then we draft a kicker that, I get it, 55 yards. Understand. But we needed it. If Justin Tuckers and the Chiefs kicker, Bucker, and like the good kickers, the good teams out there, they're able to trust their kicker. If any one of those kickers had kicked that, they would have got it. Now, are those guys perfect all the time? No, they're not. No kicker is perfect. But the jury's just still out on Moody. We just don't know if he's going to be there when we need him. And he's looked better this season. I would say he's looked more confident, but you never know. When you get that miss like he got, it could be a spiral. So hopefully it's not. But the special teams unit, the coverage unit, shout out to John Chapman. He put out a video just kind of going over how many mistakes the special teams units were making. And it's bad. It's a bad look. Schneider, I know that Shanny's just probably not going to fire him until the end of the season. And he may not fire him at all. But it's bad. It's bad. So while we're sitting here wondering, which matchup, while most teams are wondering which matchup, is it going to be the offense that needs to do better against this team, or is it the defense that's going to have to carry us? We have to worry about our special teams. The 49ers have to worry about their special teams, and we have to hold our breath every special team snap. I can't make this stuff up. And I know everybody else is doing it with me. Whenever Moody makes a kick, it doesn't matter if it's a 30-yard kick. I'm holding my breath when Moody's kicking. Like on punts now, I'm holding my breath to make sure they got the punt off. On punt coverage, holding my breath because I don't know if they're going to be able to hold him past before the 30 or even before the 40. Kick game, same thing. Who was the first special teams in the preseason to give up a score? Oh, that's right, it was the 49ers. You can't make it up. So, all right, got it all out of the way. But those are the guys you can blame. There's some guys in there that you can't blame. And for some of these guys playing hurt, I applaud them. But at the same time, Shannon, you got to like these guys. They got to figure it out. They've got to figure it out. Jair Brown hasn't really taken a step forward. I don't know if that's because of the new scheme. I don't know. I'm tired of seeing the other thing. I'm tired of seeing defensive ends dropping back into coverage. I don't want to see that anymore. That's a Staley thing. I don't want to see it anymore. If we keep seeing that, it's only going to get worse. So, all right. I want to talk about our opponent a little bit and the Patriots. And there are some positives. There's a couple of positives for this team right now. Deommodore Lenoir is playing out of his mind. He's playing really well. Fred Warner is just trying his. Those two are just trying their best to keep it all together. But Warner in particular is trying everything to keep this defense together. And I mean, he's flying all over the place. He's playing great ball, and it's sad that this might be the best version of him that I've seen, and he's not going to get credit for it if they keep losing. It's kind of sad, to be honest. And then you've got Jordan on the offensive side. You've got Purdy playing out of his mind. You've got Mason playing out of his mind. Juwan Jennings, kudos to you, bro. Like, all of those throws were not wide open. And the one where you grabbed it off of the guy's face mask was outstanding. I mean, outstanding performance by those guys. Jordan Mason is doing all the things that we all knew that he could do. And heaven knows what he could do if he was actually getting some actual run blocking. Because this offensive line cannot run block to save it. They couldn't run block to save their life last game. And I challenge anybody to watch that game back in the All-22 and watch how little the small holes that he had, and then the ones where there was no hole and he just had to make something happen. It's pretty sad. But all right. It's unofficial. So let's go over the Pats offense first. They've got they're going to have Jacoby Brissett's going to be starting again. Thank goodness. That gives us that helps us out a little bit. And then you got Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson as their running backs. It's not a bad 1-2 punch. I'll be honest. Ramondre Stevenson is a really good back. I think I've always thought he was good, and I think that he's getting more of an opportunity to show what he can do. I think that sometimes this team, the last couple of games, they've had to get away from the run just because they've gotten behind. But yeah, Ramondre Stevenson, really good back. Antonio Gibson, more of a all do it all. I think a lot of people have seen he's been in a few different teams now. That wide receiver, they've got. Everybody thinks that Jalen Polk, I believe, was their top pick this year, so they're expecting him to be a world beater. But the real number one receiver for this team is Demario Douglas, who's kind of small, but he's very shifty and really good. He'd be killer slot receiver if that's where they just left him. But Jalen Polk, not bad, but young, still got to finding his way in the league. And then you've got they're not even showing everybody on here. But tight end, you got Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper. They signed both of these guys thinking they were going to go back to their 1-2 tight end, their 2 tight end punch offense. Didn't necessarily work out that way. They just can't get a lot of production out of the quarterback position, which is their offensive line is pretty bad. It's been pretty bad. They can't really get anything going in the running game. They definitely cannot protect the quarterback. Jacoby Brissett has been running for his life the last, I think, every game this season. And also they got KJ Osborne at wide receiver, Tyquan Thornton, and Javon Baker. And KJ Osborne used to be on the Vikings, and Tyquan Thornton is a guy that I originally wanted for the 49ers a couple of years ago. Speedy guy, but they just I really blame I really blame I think that they do have talent. I mean, the more I'm looking at these wide receivers, I think they have talent. They just don't have the quarterback to get, and I think that I have no faith in their system, their offensive system. So it's I believe their offensive coordinator is Alex Van Pelt, and I just don't have any faith in their offense. I haven't had any faith, and maybe it's going to take Alex Van Pelt some time to get his offense going. But I mean, Bill Belichick had a defensive coordinator running offense at one point the previous year. So I think that this team is just starting from the ground, and it's going to be very hard for it should be very hard for them to move the ball. But 49ers defense hasn't been able to stop anybody. You know what? That's not true. They've been stopping people, but it's just been so inconsistent. They stop them on first and second. They get them to third and long, and then they call some ridiculous coverage that just gives the guys all kinds of space to get the yardage that they need, and it happens every single time. Like not every single time. I shouldn't say that either. It just happens a lot. It happens a lot, and sometimes they can hold them just under that third and long, but towards the later parts of the game, they've been struggling to hold teams on third down. They cannot get off the field. So I know that New England is probably looking at this defense as they can be had. I think that's the way the league is looking at this defense at this point, is that they're just going to pick on certain guys. And now I don't think anybody's safe. I don't think Shavarius Ward is safe. I think everybody and their mother knows that he's hurt. And then you've got, the only person you're not picking on is Demo. But there's no reason to even go at Demo because Yadam and Javarius Ward are giving up big plays. And if they're not giving up the big play, then they're giving up a PI. And that's what I expect to see. I expect them to throw deep. And even though Jacoby Brissett ain't like that, he's not that type of quarterback. But I expect them to throw deep just hoping for penalties. We're going to see more and more of that until the 49ers can prove that they can stop it. So, as far as on defense, this team has Keon White, Devon Godshow, Daniel Ekuali, and Jeremiah Farms. Oh, no. Where did I miss it? Oh, Deatrick Wise. That's another defensive end. And then at linebacker, you've got Anthony Jennings, Raekwon McMillan, Jelani Taval. You've got Jonathan Jones at corner. Then you've got Marcus Jones and Christian Gonzalez. And safety, they've got Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar. Ooh, I really like Kyle Duggar. Jabril Peppers isn't bad either. Christian Gonzalez looks really so good last season, and he's kind of struggling a little bit this season. But Marcus Jones isn't a bad guy either. So it's that's going to be interesting. And then they've got Joey Slide, kicker, Bryce Behringer, who cares, at punter. Who else? As far as whoop, let's see. The injured people, Jake Andrews is on reserve, injured. Oh, injury reserve is on Jake Andrews. You got Jawan Bentley on injured reserve. Jaquay Jackson, he's a wide receiver, doesn't play. Linebacker, Jawan Bentley. Armon Watts. one of their tackles, Oshan Zimenez, a linebacker who I don't know, and Marte Mapu, safety. He's on IR still looks like, and then you got a guy on the pup, Christian Barmore. That's a big piece that they're missing. And then the pup list is Kendrick Bourne, Cole Strange, and Sion Takataki. So they've got quite a few guys on. They've got quite a few guys on the injury report as well. And as far as the 49ers go, they've got. Let's see. Let's look at it. Let's look at the laundry list. We got on IR, we've got Feliciano, Kalia Davis, Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, and Ambry Thomas. And then Ricky Pearsall's on the non-football injury list. And then you've got, and then on the pup, it's Dre Greenlaw and Drake Jackson. But also, and I don't know why he's not on this, it's Debo. Debo's probably another week or two away from coming back. You got, I'm not sure that George Kittle is going to play in this game. Who else? Oh, and we lost Javon Hargrave for the year. So that's another piece. D Winters went out with the injury as well last game. He came back just came back from his injury, and then he went right back out. Another question I have, because on the video I saw John Chapman like talking about the special teams. Tabor Pepper looked terrible. He looked terrible. And I know 49er fans have a soft spot for Tabor Pepper in their heart because he gets involved with the fan base and like that kind of stuff. But I mean, do we got to look for another long snapper? I mean, because it was not good. It was not good. I think that might be we might have to revamp this whole special teams unit. But yeah, it was bad. And then, all right. So let's look at let's hear from some of the coaches and Brock Purdy. YouTube no longer allows people to play video. They're busting people for copyright, even with fair use laws out there. So in order to not get dinged for copyright, I think I can still play the audio though. So I won't play the video, but I'm going to play the audio of. And we're going to start with. Let me see. Who do I got first? Let's start with Sorensen. This is Nick Sorensen today, and let me know in the chat, please, if you guys can't hear it, because this is the first time I'm using this. So yeah, please let me know. But here's Nick Sorensen talking about the defense. I'm sure you guys want to hear the excuses.
More than one thing. I think it's a culmination. It hasn't really ever been one thing or one coverage. It's kind of been a culmination of things, and it just hasn't been good enough overall. You know, it's not one person or one cover. You know, like I said, it's just kind of been, we would be a little better here, a little better there. And as always, I always look at myself first, and I should. I mean, it's my defense, and I'm the coordinator, but I take responsibility of that. And I think we just all feel that way. That's a cool thing. All us coaches, we got to coach better. And players feel that challenge as well for themselves. What's that? Oh, Curtis? Oh, I don't know. Thank you.
The loss of Javon Hargrave due to your defensive line.
I mean, he's a great player, but he's having an awesome camp and awesome offseason, and really that game he was playing really, really good too. So it's tough because he's such a good player. I mean, this is a time when guys have to step up. I know it's cliche, but the league is littered with guys that have been backups and, you know, get their chance and play really well. It's just understanding who we're losing. He's it's going to be a tough shoes to fill, but guys have to step up.
Going back and talking about not one thing, not one player, not one situation. Is it difficult to make all the pieces fit together when there are so many new faces on that defense, a lot of new personnel?
No, I think it's a challenge. It's just we're close. I think we feel it. You can be frustrated at times, but we gotta fix it, and we will.
What stands out to you when you watch?
You talk about replacing Hargrave. Are you looking at just one person, or do you envision that having to be kind of multiple guys that will?
Yeah, I think we're looking at a bunch of guys, and Jordan Elliott's been rotating in, and so does Kevin. So those guys in particular, you think of have to step up, and then it goes from there. We've got guys on practice squad, so I think it's just a matter of getting guys trained, and that's why you have practice squads so that they're trained up and see who can step in and make plays for us.
Gross Matos moving inside too, or do you maybe not have enough edge depth?
He's done that, certain situations in his history, which we've talked about. And
down defense in particular, why do you feel that's been an issue? Just getting off the field.
Like I said, it's not one thing. It's been tough. It is frustrating at times. I mean, because sometimes it's really good. It's just I think stuff's been kind of inconsistent all around. Sometimes the run game we hit it up really good, or we get pressure. I think overall, I just think we have high expectations. We all do. The players, the coaches, myself, we all understand how it's supposed to look here. And I think it's not one thing. We just consistently got to get better.
Those who didn't come off the field, which I think has only happened one other time in his career, is that a reflection of the edge depth?
What up, Bridget?
No, I don't think it's a reflection of the edge depth. I think, in talking to Nick, we'd like to spell him more. I mean, if you really look at the first 3 games, we really didn't have a lot of plays. And I think he was kind of into the game and, felt good. And, Kasarik has always connected with him, and he likes to rotate the guys and take care of Nick. And there just haven't been as many defensive plays, I think, so far in the first few games. And, Nick was into it. And I think we just, we got to protect him and be smart about it so that we keep him as fresh as possible for the longest period of time. But I think he just, felt like he was good. If Nick's good, then he's going to get a lot of reps.
You watch the Patriots offense on film. What stands out to you about them?
Well, they can really run the ball. I mean, they're aggressive. They're physical. They have a very good plan. They're very well coached. 2 really good running backs, a line that knows how to block. They have good scheme. And then Brissett really is a good fit in that system and how he performs and how he plays. And, he sees the game right. He protects the ball. He can make the throws that he needs to make, and he can move really well. I think they're just a tough team, reflection of the coach and the coaching, and respect for those guys. I mean, they're really big backs that can cut, they can run. It's just overall physical team.
When you get a rough patch like this, do you sit back and think, man, we got to try some new things and shake things up, or do you have to guard against that and say, this is what we do and do it better?
I think it depends. Depends on what you're doing good. You got to look at yourself, and then also it's that week who you're playing. So you got to evaluate, what are we doing? What can we be better at? A lot of times you can pinpoint that. You don't want to just go off the reservation because you know who you are. You know what you want this defense to be. But then also, how does that tie into who we're playing? The most important thing is, how do we win this game? So it's not so much, you're looking at what you've done and what needs to be better, and you identify it. And I think we talk about it, we identify it, and then, all right, is that going to affect, how much does that affect this game? What do we need to do specifically to win this game and beat this team?
Drake May do you watch just in case they decide to make a quarterback switch?
Yeah, you watch them both. I mean, we've seen a lot of tape. I mean, there's only been a few games, and those guys did play in the preseason. So, you look at the scheme and of what they've done in the past, but he's a talented quarterback too.
Can you talk about the process of calling defenses in a game?
Ooh, good question.
And how you prepare.
I think a lot of the preparation is done now. It's done during the week, and you kind of prepare for the situations. There are tweaks that you do have to. Sometimes you can pre-think, okay, if this happens, we're ready to go to this. That you might have some tweaks in game. That's why you always hear people talk about halftime adjustments. Sometimes you have those. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't need them necessarily, or you decide that you don't, need to have something called that you have on the sheet based on what they're deciding to do, and you're just kind of figuring each other out and seeing how it's working within the game. But I think primarily most of the work is done throughout the week. You know,
It kind of replicates it, like before you get into a game. Is there anything that replicates the fury, the
oh, not really. Preseason games are cool, and then me personally, not having done it, my favorite part of training camp was the unscripted move the ball periods. I think those are invaluable for someone who hadn't done it before.
All right. So that was Nick Sorensen, and a lot of accountability and understanding that obviously he's not a finished product, and he's not necessary. It sounds to me like he's still figuring it out. So when we look at that, it's another situation where you have to look at it like Kyle brought in. He wanted to go internal for obvious reasons because he did not get along with Steve Wilkes. I think that's a given, and that just wasn't a good mix. It wasn't a good fit. So he wanted to go with an internal candidate because, for one, he could get his hands into the defense. I think that he's going to be a part of Sorensen's maturation. But that's why he brought Staley in to kind of bring him along as well. And I just don't know how much of Staley is in this defense. And it really kind of makes me nervous because what Staley did with the Rams, the 49ers do not have the personnel to do that. So you need speed. And the 49ers don't have speed on defense. Like they just don't have a lot. They don't have any They don't really have burners like that. Yeah, you got Fred Warner that for a linebacker he's a burner, but he's still a linebacker. And the defensive line isn't built to do what Staley does either. So what I'm hoping is that we kind of figure out what works and that Sorensen really just kind of gets his legs underneath him. But the next one that I had was, and I want to say what's up to Red Jet. Appreciate you coming through, fam. Absolutely, everybody, make sure that you like and subscribe. Throwback in the house. Appreciate you coming through, fam. Always a pleasure. And yeah, it just comes down to, yeah, like I said earlier this week, Sorensen's just not a finished product, and he's learning. You can hear it in his voice. He's learning. But we're going to move on to Forrester. Forrester's interview is quite long. So I'm going to probably not listen to the whole thing, but I'm going to let you guys listen to, and Purdy's is even longer. So I'm not going to probably listen to the whole thing, but we're going to listen to some of it.
In this summer that Jalen Moore was pretty much exclusively a left tackle because of necessity. Has he been able to get more?
He's still working the right side. Yeah, he's been getting work since the start of the season. Obviously, Wednesdays Trent's usually off, and then Thursdays he's back at practice. So he's able to get a little bit more work at both tackles, as is we're working Spencer Burford at tackle as well.
Chris, when you look at New England's front, what does it look like to you? They have this guy, Keon White, who's big and fast and athletic.
They're good, man. 99 and 55 are their two best rushers. The rest of the guys are really good rushers as well. Those are the guys that stand out the most as their most productive sackers and things like that. They push the pocket real well. They're well-coached defense, very good fundamentals, very good skills. Over the course of all the time that they've been there, they've established a way to attack everything that every team does in the league. If you look at enough film, you're like, they have a way. If they know what you're doing, they're going to take advantage of it. They do a really nice job. They're very well-coached, very good fundamentals, and they have good, talented players on defense.
I think you said that game against Minnesota, you felt better about the way your line played as opposed to the first week. How was last week's game against the Rams?
There's a lot of good things because the way we're moving the ball, and then the way that we, score points. Brock's production, you still have to, even though we weren't as good, to be honest. But yet, it's always with there's the pro and the con. We weren't good enough. Period. We weren't as good as we were the previous 2.
I'm going to stop it. because that kind of just pissed me off. So he starts off by saying, "Oh, we look better. We look better. And, we're moving the ball. Brock did a really good job, blah, blah, blah." And then he stops himself and says, "You know what? No, we weren't good. And we weren't good enough." And so I do appreciate that he caught himself and was just honest about it. But at the same time, to start it by trying to tell us that we didn't see what we saw is that was alarming. Oh, okay. Can you guys hear the audio? Make sure that that you tell me. Tell me if you guys can't hear the audio, because I know it's kind of low, but but it's as loud as I can get it. And no, I agree. Throwback. It just doesn't make any kind of sense to me. That you can't keep making excuses. But let me see if he says anything else of consequence.
In pass protection, run game wise, it was a productive day. For whatever reasons,
No, it was not. That's a lie.
Whatever. You can't get into all that, but the bottom line is it wasn't as good of a productive day for us in pass pro
or run pro.
One-on-one guys.
It's physical. It was physical. I'm sorry. It was physical. Yes.
I think you guys for the first 3 weeks have almost double the amount of 3-man rushes that you're seeing, at least that Brock's facing in terms of pass attempts. Do you think you can put your finger on as to maybe why teams are doing that to you guys more than others?
I'd like to say it's because we pass block so well, so they don't want to rush, so they drop, right?
Yeah, we know that's not the case.
Drop. Everybody has their reasons for doing things. Whatever the situations are, maybe they think what we're trying to get done. Maybe we have formation things that they've thought that, hey, this is one where they're leaving people. There's so many different reasons. Like, again, when Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator at Houston, and I was in Baltimore at the time, it was as simple for him as if Todd Heap was on the ball, he knew we were releasing, and we were going to have a 5-man protection. He rushed
throwback.
6.
Can you hear?
The second Todd Heap was off the ball, we're using a 6 or 7-man protection. He dropped 8 and rushed 3. So just by Heap being on or off the ball, he set a whole game plan up, rushing 3 or rushing more than 3 for the whole game. And that was his tell. Whatever the percentages we did it, he decided to go with it. So I tell that story to relate that whatever.
Okay.
The laundry list of things that the defensive coordinator looks at Shula and says, hey, this is why we're going to rush 3 in these situations. This is what they do. This is our best chance to get them stopped, or just change the pace. Sometimes sometimes we say it's like
it's those Apple
Rolodex.
products.
Just a Rolodex defense. Just okay. Here's the next one, and they just roll it, and just to keep you off balance. It just depends.
It would seem like that would maybe put more pressure on the line to protect longer, just because maybe things are taking a little longer to open up with A dropping back in coverage. Is that a fair assessment? And what is kind of the challenge of keeping those things going?
I mean, you saw the plays. I mean, Brock's back there. Everybody gets nervous. You're like the timing of the timing of an NFL pocket. We all know. We talked about it a little bit with earlier in this 2 weeks ago in Minnesota. We weren't quite synced. It was a little bit of everybody, right? And so the ball wasn't coming out. So you get one hitch, maybe 2 hitches. 3-man rush. You said it's like, and then you're like, okay, I've taken 2, I've taken 3 hitches, and you see him. He's like, where'd I go? Because you're not used to just realizing it's just a 3-man rush. And so yeah. And then with us, it's the same thing. You block. You're like, okay, there's 1 hitch. You can't see it, but you feel the timing in your head. There's 2, and then the ball should be gone. And you're like, oh, I didn't know it was a 3-man rush. And then all of a sudden, Brock's still standing back there, and guys are working to get open. It's just different, and you can't do it out here. You get used to. You're like, oh, yeah, and that's why I remind them they're mixing in the 3-man rush. So if it feels like the play's still going when it shouldn't be going, it's because it is. Because most times it's pass block, the ball's thrown, the D lineman take off. Well, now you're here.
All right, so I mean, he says, I'm gonna just paraphrase because he talks a lot about that, and he's gonna talk about the same stuff. He's gonna say a lot of the same stuff that he's talked about before, and the thing that I just listened to with him is that, and I'd given him kudos in the past for being accountable and just saying when it was almost like he doesn't want to take responsibility. And honestly, I don't think it's Forster's fault. I'll be honest with you. I don't blame Forster, but at the same time, he's trying not to throw his players under the bus. He knows that he doesn't have good enough players. But for him to say that they did good things in the run game, I can't go there with you. Just because Jordan Mason got yards does not mean that they did a good job in run blocking. Their run blocking was atrocious. Period. Point blank. If you don't believe me, go back and look at the all 22. Hopefully you guys have got NFL Plus. It's insulting like for him to say that. But all right. So real quick, because we're hitting an hour, like I was gonna play Purdy's, but but I mean it's the same thing Purdy's been saying. Like he's really good at player speak. But I want to play this audio from the Pats YouTube channel. They do their little mini show. They did theirs today, and they talked about what it's going to take for the Pats to beat the 49ers. So I think it might give us some good perspective as to what we could see on Sunday, or at least what they're going to try to do on Sunday. So I got that audio for you.
Honestly, I've got to give the props to Sean McVay in that one. He pulled a lot of tricks out of his hat to keep his team in the game, and I'm wondering if I'm the Patriots, do I do the same thing? Whether it's seeing Marcus Jones play offense, I don't know if you need to save his legs for special teams and defense, but I thought Sean McVay pulled a lot of tricks out of his hat to keep the Rams in this one. He took a lot of shots down the field as well to get pass interference called. I think the secondary is where he really exploited them. I think if the Patriots are able to exploit the 49ers secondary, they can get in this game.
All right, guys, last segment. One key Patriot for this matchup that you're watching on that you think will play a big role in this game this weekend. Tamara, who's your guy?
Ramondre Stevenson. The Patriots have to get back to their bread and butter. He only had 6 carries for 23 yards. I want him to have a clean game, no fumbles, and hopefully have a 100-yard performance.
I'm sticking with a similar thing. I'm just going to go Alex Van Pelt. It's a little outside the box, but he even second-guessed himself a little bit on Friday, saying in hindsight the game plan against the Jets was a little backwards. Probably should have ran it first and then thrown it. This team is not built to throw to get the lead. Like, they're just not built that way. They can't have identity crises anymore. They have to go into this game, know who you are. I understand, we all talk about it all the time, that their winning formula has a ceiling. Like, they're not going to be able to win a lot of games like they did in week 1 against the Bengals, but for right now, that's their path to victory. So get the ball to Ramondre, get it to Antonio Gibson, run the dang ball, do that sort of thing, and then we can start worrying about play action and throwing the ball down the field. They got a little too cute with it last week, and they need to focus on their identity.
All right, I'm going with 2 players, David Andrews, Michael Onwenu, 2 veterans along the offensive line that have to lead the way, protecting Jacoby Brissett and opening up holes in the run game. Well, that's going to do it for us for this preview of Patriots 49ers. We'll be back next week with a preview for the Patriots as they welcome the Miami Dolphins here at home after 2 weeks away. We'll see you then.
All right, so, and I have to put this up here because it's just funny. Appreciate you, Harry, for coming in. But no, we do not. So a couple of things about what they said, what they were talking about. And Ramondre Stevenson, like I said earlier, really good back. Like, I think that that's really what they're going to try and do. But they talked about it. They said that what they want to do is run the ball. They want them to run the ball. Last week, they said that they tried to pass the ball more, and it was a disaster. So this week, I fully expect them to try and do, especially after seeing how the 49ers struggled in the second half against the run, I fully expect them to try and run the ball with Ramondre Stevenson, especially if the 49ers can't get going early. So what we absolutely do not want as 49er fans is to let these guys hang around and be able to keep running the ball, because our defensive line does not have a lot of depth right now. They will get worn down if that's the case. And we don't have a good rotation. Like, I don't know if you guys paid attention, but Bosa's playing the whole game. Leonard Floyd's playing the whole game. Like, we don't have a rotation right now. So it's going to be imperative that they get the defense gets off the field on third down, and that our offense is able to sustain drives. They put it together a couple of those 13 to 16 minute drives just to keep the defense fresh and to keep them off the field. If they can do that, then it should be a pretty good day at the office. If they can't sustain drives and they can't run the ball and they can't just put together those drives, it's going to be a long day for this defense. I'm predicting it now. Not that I'm being negative. That's the way I see it coming, especially we just don't have the depth. I honestly think that they just need to give those guys breathers just because, just to keep them fresh, keep the rotation going. Even if you feel like you can't, you still got to keep the rotation going to keep your guys fresh. It's got to happen. But as you can hear, they're not confident in their own offense. They didn't really talk much about the defense being able to hold, but I think that they're pretty confident in their defense. I think the whole thing with they're not even confident in the offensive coordinator. So this is an opportunity for the 49ers to get right. And I'm hoping that they can just make it happen. But I appreciate everybody coming through. Hope you enjoyed the audio. Let me know in the comments, like after the show is over, if you enjoyed having the audio, and because you can't have the video anymore. I don't know why that. I don't know why YouTube is afraid of the audio or the video part anymore. But I think a lot of content creators are going to find out that they're going to get their monetization yanked pretty soon if they keep playing video. So it is what it is. But hopefully everybody enjoyed the video. Hopefully make sure that you give the video a like. Make sure that you give it a subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell so you get notifications for when I go live. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I am on Twitch. And anywhere where you can get your audio podcast. So I don't care where you get it, just get it. And make sure that you tell a friend to tell a friend so we can be friends every day, every week. Really appreciate everybody coming out. Throwback, Balzac, pause. Beto. Who else? Red Jet. Appreciate you coming through. Jimmy, David McNiner. Appreciate all of you for coming through. I will see you guys on Sunday. Right after the game, I'll be doing my instant reaction show. I seem to get pretty good turnouts for that. So if that's the one you want to wait for, I'll be there for that. Just get ready for that show. And with that being said, I think I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Hug your loved ones. Enjoy your friends. Great. Have a great weekend. But with all that being said, as always, go Niners.